Hello, welcome to Board Game Breakfast. My name is Tom Vassell, and today, wow, there is a lot of news and things. But before we get into that, we want to give a shout out to one of our Kickstarter backers, the NorthTexasRPG.com. You can find more about that at NTRPGCon.com, NTRPGCon.com. And what they are is they're a role-playing convention in North Texas. This is going to be happening from June 5th to the 8th. And if you like the old-style Dungeons and Dragons kind of role-playing, then that's what you're looking for. Speaking of conventions, the Cool Mini or Not convention is being held in Atlanta, May 23rd to 25th. Not this week, but the following week. And I'm going to be there. So a couple things. Hopefully to all my viewers, some of you might be coming by that convention. I hope you come by and say hi. At 3 p.m. on Friday, there will be a panel about the internet and working with games, and I'll be on that panel as well as Rodney from Watch It Played and some other folks. And so come by, say hi. Maybe we'll have a chance to play games at the convention. Maybe you have a chance to say shut the door for one of my videos. But either way, if you're coming by, I hope to see you there. All right. Well, looks like it's time for the news. Oh, one more thing. Happy Mother's Day to all those who are wonderful mothers across the world. Like I said, a lot of news, so let's get right into it. Game Salute has some games coming out. Otantin, which is a game that just basically should be avoided by everybody. But from Dice Hate Me Games, they have Viva Java, the dice game. I don't know how Viva Java could have been turned into a dice game, but I'm always interested in dice games, and Dice Hate Me Games have been getting progressively better. And also Belle of the Ball, which is certainly a theme that is not used very often in board games. From Studio 9, we have some expansions coming out. For Villains and Villagers, Borderlands. Villains and Villagers is a good little card/dice game that kind of went unnoticed. I enjoyed it. It was light, but has great artwork and a lot of different cool things you can do. And then Treasures and Traps. I haven't won that one, but it did win an Origins Award. But there's Expanded Realms and Random Encounters, 2 expansions coming for that. Rio Grande bought some product placement on TV shows, and this has shown up in the HBO show, or I guess it's Showtime, I don't know what show it is, Silicon Valley. And they had Arctic Scavengers showing up in that. So interesting, maybe that will get more buzz for them, and they said that the buzz has been enough, but there's going to be an expansion for Arctic Scavengers, reprinted. That's fantastic. 6 years late, but hey. IELLO has a new game coming out soon called The Night of the Grand Octopus. We actually managed to get some footage of what this game is about at the GTS, Eric Summer and Dan King. So let's pause and take a little preview of this game.
Hello, I'm Stefan with IELLO, and I'm going to talk to you about The Night of the Great Octopus.
Okay.
Alright, so this is a game of betrayal and backstabbing and negotiation. The theme of the game is that this is the Night of the Great Octopus, and
it looks nothing like Cthulhu at all.
Nothing at all. It's a satirical take on the world of H.P. Lovecraft. So each player is controlling a cult, and the health of the cult is indicated on that blade of power.
That's how many cultists you have in your cult.
Exactly.
You run out and you don't have a cult anymore.
That's it. Then each player controls one little cultist, very cute, with a little dagger, and then a giant octopus that's going to be roaming around the School of Magic and trying to eat other cultists.
Okay.
The goal of the game is for the player to invocate or summon the Great Octopus to gather 4 of the magical ingredients disseminated in the school.
Any 4 different ingredients and you're good.
Exactly.
Okay.
In order to do so, you are traveling through the school. You must pay attention to the stairs. For example, you cannot travel from the library to the garden because there is no stair. You would have to go to the observatory or the weird room here that has a carpet. Yeah, what is that room? I don't know. A crypt?
Gallery.
Some sort. Gallery, there you go. So each turn, a player secretly chooses a destination for their cultist with the little dial, and a destination for their monster with the big dial. We keep it secret and we revolve simultaneously. Yellow is going to take his cultist in number 1 in the library, and actually we all start in the library. And then my monster is going to go to 4. All right. Now we are resolving conflict in a room where there are more than one cultist. Those 2 players have to decide who is going to take the book away. If we come to an agreement, maybe green will take the book.
Thanks.
And he's 1 point closer to victory.
But I owe you one for later.
I will remind you that I let you take the book. On another option, we might disagree because I don't want to be nice with Eric, and we're going to say, no, there is no, I'm not letting you. So if we cannot get to an agreement, there is a brawl on the board, not in real life. I wouldn't hurt you, Eric.
Okay.
And then, in this case, both green and yellow player lose 1 cultist on the cultist tract.
We couldn't come to an agreement, so we get in a fight, and we get hurt.
And we are losing followers. Our face is not strong as it was, and so we are losing people. In a room where, for example's sake, there is 1 monster, there is not even any discussion of who is winning. The monster is eating everybody. Everybody lose.
So green and yellow would lose another one, and red would take the token.
Well, actually, no, because red is not there. Red will take the token only if he has.
The cultists take the token, the monster
are
eat the cultist.
just to kill the cultist.
Okay.
In a room where someone is alone, there is no discussion. You take the object and you get it. In a room where there are more than 2 monsters, what happened to that room is none of our business. You will also notice that on the side we have a special room. There are 4 of them. This is double-sided and they have special effect. If you decide to take your cultist to the special room, you just put both dials on the same room. That means that your monster is going nowhere, but your cultist is traveling to the special room, getting the key, and then next turn you can decide to teleport your cultist anywhere because he's not connected with the stairs. And that's the basic mechanic. Again, as soon as one player gathers 4th magic ingredient, he wins the game.
And when will this be available?
We are actually negotiating with Superlude, so it's in the pipe. We don't have an ETA yet. It should be 3rd quarter, we think.
Mike Zelinker, famous game designer, Pathfinder, the venture card game, really likes Will Wheaton's tabletop show, as obviously a lot of other people do since it passed 1 million on the Indiegogo campaign. But he said he's going to be making the tabletop game you play with your tabletop games on your tabletop. All right, well, but anyway, congratulations to the tabletop folk. It'll be interesting to see the RPG show that they're going to be making now. There's a new scenario for Robinson Crusoe, downloadable from their website. And let's see, Fantasy Flight Games has announced a new expansion for Talisman called Magical Quest. And even though I'm not a big fan of Talisman, I gotta say, enough people like it so that these expansions keep coming out. And they sure look good every time they come out. They also talk a little bit more about the TIE Phantom, one of their upcoming ships for Star Wars. This looks really cool. I mean, just look at the way it can move and jump around. And it's cloaked, so cloaking and uncloaking and doing some cool things. Very interesting on how it's going to be able to maneuver and come into this game. And Marvel Dice Masters, they've announced that the starter packs are going to be hitting stores very soon to refill. However, after that, it's going to get a little hairy because they did not expect the huge demand, and so we're not going to see some stuff until August. So if you see it in stores, get it now. They're also going to be changing the collation they announced for the next expansion to pretty much guarantee that you will get an ultra rare in every box, but they're going to be making the boxes bigger, having 90 packs per box so that they also lay flatter. Next Monday, they're going to be announcing the Spiel des Jahres Awards, and I don't know if that will happen before or after I get the news all put together, but these are some big awards in Germany. They'll be announcing nominations. There's different categories of nominations, and they have the Spiel des Jahres, which is like a family-style game, and then they have the Kenner Spiel des Jahres, which is more of a strategic game, and then they have the Kinder Spiel des Jahres. Now, the Kinder game, I'll never ever be able to guess those because usually they're only been released in Germany, and they're always fantastic games for kids. I'm gonna just make some wild random guesses here for the Spiel des Jahres. I'll say that Splendor, this is a game I think should make it. Love Letter even though Love Letter came out a couple years ago, just last year was released in Germany. And Steam Park. I don't really think Steam Park has a chance, but it should make it in. It's a great, great game. For the Kennerspiel, here I have no idea what they'll pick. I'll say Amerigo, maybe, because Feld, he's Feld. Concordia, which I think would be an excellent choice. And Caverna, Glass Road. I'm going to go with Caverna because I like Caverna better, but it's pretty similar to Agricola, and I don't know if they want to give the award to a game that's similar. As I will probably get all 6 of those wrong. I don't know. Splendor, though, seems like it should be a slam dunk, but who knows? Anyhow, that is the news. What came out and what was released last week. We have the 4th expansion for Steam, the 4th map pack. This one is Poland and South Africa. The South Africa one is for 3 to 6 players. Then we have Hot Tin Roof from Mayfair Games. This is a cat-filled adventure game with fantastic furry feline fun. All right, but it's designed by Leo Calavini, so I expect that the theme means absolutely nothing, but who knows. Also, we saw the Summoner Wars, the second Summoners for the Cloaks and the Jungle Elves, which are fantastic. And a couple games from GMT, Unconditional Surrender, and Hoplite. Coming out this week, let's see, the My Little Pony collectible card game will be having its first expansion, Camelot. And the Game of Thrones LCG will be having a new expansion come out this week. All right, over to the doctor.
Hi there, everyone. This is Scott Nicholson, and welcome to the Ivory Dice Tower, where I look at games from the perspective of an academic. And in this episode, I'm going to continue talking about my recipe for meaningful gamification, which are a series of things that aren't points and rewards that are used to help people engage in something in the real world. Today, I'm talking about one of the E's, engagement. And by engagement, I mean social engagement, with the idea that you want people to engage with each other, that you want to create game spaces that people may not be incentivized by the points, but they can meet someone who is personally involved in this topic. And by engaging with them, by learning about why this matters, they can perhaps find places to engage as well. The idea that, well, I'm not engaged in this, but I like you, and you're engaged in this, and you are now able to share with me why you find this important. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, okay, I get that now. I'm going to find this important too. That's the idea. So instead of saying, hey, get points for doing this thing, it's like, hey, you get to spend time with these people, and as you're doing this, you may find some personal engagement. And so in games, if you think about when you play a game, you may play a game and you get to the end and you're like, that didn't do it for me. And someone else said, well, I really enjoyed this connecting to this, and I enjoyed how these things come together. And then you think about it and you say, oh, I didn't see that at all. That's interesting. I'd like to try it again. And so the idea is in games, how do you create those opportunities for people to actually talk about why they're doing what they're doing? When you're doing a learning game, this is something that's very important in designing a learning game, is you want to create points where people have to verbalize their decision-making process. I actually talk about in learning games, it can be best to have players play in small teams, because then they have to talk about what's going on. And as they talk about it, they're going to raise the chance that they're going to share something meaningful to them. Other people will hear that and find their own personal connections. Now, we don't do this a lot in board games. We tend to have everyone sitting there quietly, looking like they're in pain, staring at the table. But it would be more interesting to create opportunities for people to actually talk about what they're thinking, to talk about their strategies. If you've ever tried playing a game where you encourage people to talk about everything they're thinking about, it's very interesting, and it can help everyone understand the game in a different way. This can be a great way if you're struggling with a game and struggling to get it. Play with someone who's pretty good at it and say, hey, would you talk through what you're thinking? And you can learn so much about what's going on by having that engagement, by learning about the way someone else thinks about the world can change the way you think about the world. And that's the purpose of these videos, to help change the way you think about the world by giving you some little viewpoints out there of how you can use these elements of games and play to actually make a difference. Next time, we will speak about the last part of my recipe of meaningful gamification.
All right, some of you may say, hey, Vassal, you said last week you do the Flashpoint expansions as reviews. And yes, but in going over them, I wanted to play them a little bit more. So the video has been shot. We're putting it together. They will come out this week. And to make up for that, we'll have some extra reviews this week. We'll be taking a look at the new Rebel Transport and the new Imperial ships for X-Wing TIE Fighter. We'll be taking a X-Wing miniatures, not X-Wing TIE Fighter. We'll be taking a look at some of the Magic the Gathering expansions that have come out. My daughters will hopefully take a look at the My Little Pony collectible card game. I wanted to play that some more with them before we got to that. We got Boss Monster and Ruse and a few other games. And then, of course, my contributors have a pile of things that we'll be taking a look at. Don't forget Dice Tower Network. Lots of great podcasts. Really, if you listen to the Dice Tower Network stuff, you'd be able to listen to something every day of the week if you wanted to. And then we have our news every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, DicetowerNews.com, where we put out a 5 to 10 minutes spot on what's new in the gaming world. All right, so anyhow, all that being said, let's take a look at some apps.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. One of my favorite games of all time is Kalis, and even though it's been released for almost 10 years, I think it holds up really well to today's Euro offerings. Now, the app version for iOS was actually released a couple of years ago, and it's seen a ton of playtime on my tablet, so I thought it was about time that we took a quick look at this classic worker placement game. In Kalis, you play as a master builder competing to make the most and best contributions to the king's village and castle. But for your Euro game, there's an interesting bit of screw your neighbor in the unique pacing mechanic of the provost and bailiff. And perhaps more importantly, it spawned one of the best gaming memes ever, the Kalis King. Kalis the app looks somewhat different from Kalis the board game, and I have to admit it took me a little while to acclimate to the design and layout, and one could argue they should have compacted the board elements more to allow for more info to be on screen. Things like who's built in the castle and building descriptions are all hidden away in trays, which are easy to access but still a little awkward. The rules are written and illustrated well, and I would recommend new players actually read through them as opposed to relying on the in-game tutorial that inserts pop-ups as you play. It's a functional approach, but it feels a bit dated. There is supposedly online play, but to be honest, I couldn't figure it out, and there's probably not a demand for random Kalis games anyhow. On the other hand, there are 3 different AI opponent personalities, which adds a nice bit of variety and provides a reasonable solo challenge. The AI play and all the scoring happens very quickly on the screen, which can be hard to follow. But how many games give you workers that do a jig before you place them? Kalis is a classic Euro, and the port is strong, but shows its age a bit. The developer, Big Daddy's Creations, has indicated that they're not going to continue to update the app for new screen resolutions, which is kind of a bummer. But that said, Kalis was quite advanced when it was released, and it runs smoothly on current devices and provides a nice worker placement challenge, complete with dancing workers. Give it a try.
Alright folks, it's time to compare 2 games today, and we're going to compare games that are designed by the same designer, have come out from the same company, and those 2 games are Forbidden Island and Forbidden Desert. They even have the same first word in them, although you'll notice they're different sizes. Forbidden Island came out first. Both of these games are designed by Matt Laycock and done by GameRight. This one is for 2 to 4 players. This one is for 2 to 5 players. Forbidden Island came out first, and on it you're on an island trying to get some treasures off this island before the whole island sinks, and then get to the chopper so you can get off the island. In Forbidden Desert, your plane has crashed. You're all trying to survive and find the mythical parts to an ancient aircraft that you can then build so that you can escape from, well, the desert. Both of these games are cooperative games where you're working together. Both of these games have stupendous artwork, good production values, well, except the tins. And they're both very fun games. Do you need both in your collection? Probably not, although you can see that I like them both enough to have both of them in my collection. But the question is, if you want to get one, which one should you get? Well, Forbidden Island has 1 less player. So if you have 5 players, the choice is easy, Forbidden Desert. But there's also many other differences between them. Forbidden Island is a game in which you're working together and you're giving cards back and forth. What Forbidden Island really does well is it promotes a very strong sense of teamwork, one with the other. And you can even play with open hands and such. And so Forbidden Island is an excellent game for kids. It can work with kids by themselves or kids with adults. Forbidden Desert promotes that teamwork also, but has a more of a focus on logic, because what you're doing is you're trying to figure out where these pieces are hidden. And Forbidden Desert has a very unique mechanism where sand is blowing all over the place and you can get trapped in piles of sand. Forbidden Island has a unique mechanism where the island parts of it are sinking, and so if too many of them sink, you won't be able to complete your mission. Both of them have players with special abilities, and those players will be able to do different things, and so promotes the fact that each person has something unique that they can contribute to the party. Both games have a very strong sense of desperation to them, and both games, if played at their hardest level, can be quite difficult. I think at their easiest levels, Forbidden Island is much easier. And in fact, if you're going to have any kind of challenge at all, you got to start this one at mid or high level to make it more difficult. Forbidden Desert, even on the easiest level, can be a challenge, and on the hardest level is nigh impossible. So, here's what I would recommend. If you have kids, if you are playing with kids, Forbidden Island is the first one I would try. I would actually play Forbidden Desert with kids too, but I would try this one first. It promotes a much more family sense of togetherness. Forbidden Desert can do the same thing, but it's on a higher level. This one here says ages 10 and up. They both actually say ages 10 and up. But to be quite honest, this one is like 8 and up probably. It's really not that hard, easy to teach. So if I had a family, well, I do have a family, but if you as a family have younger kids, this is the better choice. However, Forbidden Island is an excellent choice, and I really enjoy playing Forbidden Island with a group of adults. I think it's a very solid cooperative game. I could play Forbidden Desert with a group of adults, but it's more of a family game. This one can go much deeper than that. But as I said, they're both family games. Frankly, folks, it doesn't really matter which one you get. They're both excellent. They have different feels. They are not simply a reskinning of one another, and both have a little bit of similarity to Matt Leacock's most famous game, Pandemic. But they're both tremendous games, so I think the age group of who you're going to play to will matter as to which one you pick. Older, younger, or, of course, then again, this one also goes to 5 players. But you know what? You're not going to go wrong picking either.
Hello, Dice Tower viewership. Chaz Marler from the Pair of Dice Paradise board game podcast here, welcoming you to part 9 in my no way intended to still be numbered series on running a gaming group. This episode, I'm taking you out of the studio to see the process I use to rent the community center in my town, where I host my own bi-weekly gaming group. I hope that this gives you some ideas about the kind of venues that may be available in your own town. So, let's go on location. Chaz Marler on location. I'm lost. First off, renting the community center starts with everyone's favorite, paperwork. From City Hall's website, there's a contract that I print out, select my dates, sign, and submit with my payment. Then I take everything down to City Hall and turn it in, thus reserving the room for the selected dates. The fees for renting your town's community center can vary from free to several $100s, so check your local venues for actual rates. The day before my board gaming event, I pick up the key from City Hall. Nothing can stop me now, except for an escaped mob of angry carnival tigers. That would stop me. My community center has several rooms to choose from, but I usually reserve the conference room. It's a decent location, with all the atmosphere of a 1970s public school, but with fewer polyester leisure suits. There's also a kitchen area available, complete with a fridge, microwave, and even an oven. It's really nice because it provides a place to eat without hovering over the games. And in addition to this, there's also a gymnasium-sized room available, which I really hope to fill with my own mini convention someday in the future. The best part is that my group usually has the entire place all to ourselves, making it a nice, quiet location for gaming. And all things considered, I'm really glad to have discovered it, and I hope that this helps some of you out there discover a possible gaming location in your own city that you may not have thought of before. Chaz here. Hey, do you have any questions or suggestions for this series on building a gaming group? I've run through all of my original ideas, so let me know if there's anything else that you'd like to see covered. Otherwise, next time I'll either, move on to a new topic or just start asking people to send me shirts.
One-hit wonders are games that showed up on my top 100 list and then disappeared and didn't come on, and people wonder where they went. And most of the time, these games went off my top 100 simply because other games bumped them off. But I do like to talk about it and explain why they're not in the top 100. Remember, I played about 4,000 games at this point, so being in the top 100 is being in a very top percentage of all the games that I've played. Now, The game we're going to talk about today is Tigris and Euphrates from Reiner Knizia. And this game came out, I believe, 99 or somewhere around there. And this is a game that if you have not played it, I think everybody should try it at least once. Because no matter what else, this game is a brilliant design. It is a game in which it feels fairly abstract. I know there's big discussions on the theme and whatever. There's no theme really. It's kind of an abstract game in which you're placing tiles on the board to form different kingdoms that will get you points. And this game, you get points in 4 different colors, red, green, blue, and black. And at the end of the game, your score is equal to the lowest number of whatever the colors are. So you're trying to get as many of each color as you can. So that's an interesting scoring mechanism, but there's this interesting combat thing where there's internal conflicts and external conflicts, and you resolve those by using tiles, and it's a very vicious game, plays very differently with 2, 3, and 4, but plays well with all of them. I think I might prefer it with 2. When I first played Tigris and Euphrates, I did not like it because the person who taught it to me completely destroyed me, didn't really give me a good rules thing, and I was like, wow, this isn't fun at all. But I played it some more and eventually started really liking it to where it made it into my top 100 the very first year we did this. As time went by, though, it has dropped out of my top 100 because there is one part of it during a combat where sometimes you can really get messed over in combat due to a very lucky tile pull that someone else has. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. And that can really throw off the whole game sometimes. Sometimes it's that critical that you win something the whole game and they pull some lucky tiles. And that lucky tile pull thing just grates on me after a while, and so the game isn't as fun as I like it to be. So I have to take a couple years off from playing Tigris and Euphrates. If you asked me to play it now, I probably would play it because it's been years since I've played it, but I like the game enough that I'll come back, but it's no longer in my top 100 because there's so many moments of frustration at the game itself. Not other players, but it just felt like, you know, I worked hard to make sure I won that battle, and he just got lucky and drew a handful of 5 red tiles. So the game is still an excellent game. That lucky tile draw annoys me enough that it dropped off my top 100. But like I said, it's a groundbreaking game. There's nothing else like it on the market, and certainly one that most people should try.
Mage Wars. Each player gets to decide which mage they like to play. You get your own spellbook. The spellbook can come preloaded with cards, or you can customize it to your own style and flavor. A large arena is divided into 12 sections. Each turn you get to choose any 2 cards from your spellbook, flip through and plan your strategy. Conjure, attack, summon creatures to fight alongside you, add equipment to your person, place powerful enchantments under cards that can surprise your opponents when enacted. Truly any card is allowed as long as you have enough mana. Mana is like money. This equipment costs 6 mana, for example. The beginning of each turn you channel more mana. These are the action markers. You can take full or quick actions. This card lets you move, then take a quick attack action, rolling 4 dice. Or don't move and take a full action, shooting from a distance. This means a miss. This is a normal attack but can be blocked, while this star symbol is a critical damage that can't be blocked. So many different kinds of cards and tokens. Each turn you get more and more action markers to play with. So many surprising moments and tricks. You really start to feel like a mage with all of magic. The trick is deciding how to spend your mana and win. Each game is deeper than the last. Out of 5, we give this game a 5.
Today I want to talk about game conspiracies. Now, it doesn't matter what happens in life. There are people who are going to think conspiracies occur. Now, I'm certainly not here to say that there is no such thing as conspiracies in the world, because obviously there are. I don't think there's nearly as many as the internet might have you believe about whatever. You pick your historical topic and there was some sort of conspiracy about it. Perhaps there was, perhaps there wasn't. I usually lean towards there usually wasn't, but it could happen. But there's a lot of people who talk about conspiracies with game companies, especially larger game companies. And while I will not be the one to say that everything is up front and center in the board game industry, there are certainly some nefarious people that have popped up from time to time, and especially on Kickstarter and things where they have robbed people or done things that are not cool. And this has happened throughout the history of board gaming. Starting with the stealing of Monopoly, I guess. But anyhow, the thing that brought this to me was the Marvel Dice Masters. People have been getting really upset with WizKids over this, and there was speculation that they were deliberately holding things back to make it scarcer, to make things exciting, and people were trying to figure out how could a company be so dumb to not know that there was going to be such a great demand. Well, I think I can answer some of those questions. There's pretty clear to me. When it comes to board gaming, you are kind of foolish if you go into it thinking you have a hit on your hands. If you have a hit on your hands, that is a fantastic thing, and you will get the money to be able to reprint the game and make it widely available to a huge audience. But if you print a ton of that game and it is not popular, then you as a company are going to lose a lot of money, and it's going to be in bargain bins everywhere. So Marvel Dice Masters. Now, when I first played it, I said it was fantastic. I said I thought it would sell. I thought it was going to be one of the biggest games of 2014. And I was right. But I have said things like that about other games before, and it has not come to case. So they cannot use me as a barometer. Besides, when I did it and reviewed it, they were still putting things in production, and then the demand started to grow. Well, the thing about companies when they produce games is that it takes a while to get a game produced. You can't say, oh, wow, thousands of people are going to want this game. We need to print thousands more. Well, fantastic. But that takes time. So let's say, for example, they made the numbers and it sold out everywhere. Well, then they started a second print run. But that second print run takes months. Then when that one sold out, they had to make a third print run. Well, that's going to take even more months. It's not like you can snap your fingers and this stuff comes. There's the production, there's logistics, getting the game to where it wants to be. There's customs, there's all sorts of things. And you can rush things, but whenever you rush anything, that costs a lot more money, and then the company is going to lose money on that deal. And it would be foolish to lose money just to make sure people have a game in their hands. Honestly, I think we're going to look back in a year or two and kind of laugh at how frenzied everybody was to get this game when it will be widely available. You say, but Vassal, it was Marvel Dice Masters. Well, Marvel is a big license, but big license does not mean a game will sell well. Look at Star Wars. There has been many failed games that have the Star Wars license. Look at the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars miniature game. That kind of bombed. Even their miniature game with all the little people, a lot of people like that, and it still didn't do that well. Even WizKids themselves had the Lord of the Ring license, which is another license that sells. They combined that with Quarriors for the Lord of the Rings dice building game, and it wasn't really that good of a game, and that game didn't do so well. And not all their games have done well. So when they come out with a new game, yes, it has a new license, yes, they have a cool idea, and yes, they think it's a great game, but they're not sure that the public is going to agree with them. So when they find out that they do have a hit on their hands, then they go back and they print more and get them on the market. And it's really easy for Joe Schmo in the street to say, you should do a better job. But if you were so really wise about these matters, then you would be a brilliant publisher yourself. Why don't you do that? Because no publisher can predict a hit. I remember when Ticket to Ride was first published, and I was talking to the guys from Days of Wonder, and they said, man, Ticket to Ride might win the Spiel des Jahres. If it doesn't, though, we're not going to be able to sell as many copies as we think. They didn't know how popular it was going to be, and they took a gamble, and they started printing early, hoping it would win the Spiel des Jahres, and it did, and so that gamble paid off for them, and they were able to get the game out and sell quite a few of them. But if it hadn't, or people hadn't liked the game as much, that gamble would have gone poorly for them, and a lot of companies over the years have poorly guessed at this distribution and done bad at it. It's a tough thing, folks. It's speculation. You want to print the right number of copies. You want to print the copies that the last person interested in your game buys it off the shelf. Retail stores have the same problem. They want to make sure their shelves are full of games, but they want people to actually buy those games. So I'm sure that Conspiracies exists in the board gaming world, maybe. I would say they're very small ones. But I don't think big companies are doing these things like the Fantasy Flight faced these same accusations last year when they ran out of the X-Wing miniatures. Oh, you're deliberately... No, it takes a while for these things to get in production. So this is what I say to you folks. When you're looking for a game and you're saying, oh, this game hasn't come out yet, and oh, this company, they're annoying me, well, go play something else. Now, I want to say I'm separating this from Kickstarter stuff, okay? It's a completely different ball game, okay? I'm talking about the non-Kickstarter stuff right now. But if a company says a game is coming out, you can't find that game, they're reprinting it, Caverna, for example, these companies aren't sitting around going, ha, 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 oh, the demand is so high. No, I promise you they're sitting there going, oh, I wish this was on the shelves because it would sell. They're working hard to get these games out to you. And they're fun games, and I'm sure that you cannot wait to play them. But in the meantime, folks, there's thousands of others that you can play while you're waiting. So anyhow, that's what I think.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to Ask Snakes. We've got our temporal anomalies all sorted out, and today we actually have some actual questions from people who don't come from the future. So, here we go with our very first one. So, dear Snakes, I think Wayne should read the mail.
Ah, I can't believe that worked. So, Rick from Missouri asks, did you catch the puppet? Clearly, the answer is no. Okay, thanks, Rick. Now, I have a question for you, Rick, from Missouri. If you're going to make up a phony place name, why not make up something that sounds believable? Missouri. That's just ridiculous. Now, Cecily, from Home Not Specified, that is a weird town name, says she's going to her local board game cafe in a couple of weeks. Cool, I'm glad you have one. And she wants to know what she should ask the staff, because she wants to know what sort of questions and input from customers are most helpful. Great question! Yeah! The more you can tell the game gurus, the better. The better their recommendations will be based on the information you give them about what you like and what you don't like. So, tell them your favorite game. Tell them your least favorite game. If you think something sucks, let them know. Also, you can talk about yourself. People like to do that. Tell them about your personality. Are you creative? Do you like to lie? Are you competitive? Whether the answer is yes or no, they will have a game that suits you. Finally, favorite mechanics are good too. So, let them know what you like. Worker placement, area control, push your luck, auctions, all that good stuff. So, anyway, remember, send your emails to asksnakes@snakesandlattes.com. Bye!
And that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for coming by Board Game Breakfast. Now, a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, don't forget you can find the audio version of this show and some of other shows we do throughout the week on dicetoweraudio.com. So if you just want to listen to the audio. Number two, some of you have been kind of laughing at me about how this is turning into Board Game Lunch because of the time it gets out on Monday. There's a couple reasons for that. Every weekend I try to get this together, but as a youth pastor and things, my Sundays can be awfully busy, or there's lots of things that happen. Like, for example, maybe a car breaks down and it's Mother's Day and things. So, and we're also putting a lot more effort into the back end of production-wise. And so since I'm working on editing for so long, that's why it's often coming out around lunchtime rather than breakfast time, at least for the Eastern Standard Coast. So I apologize for that, but we are working hard to get these out as quickly as we can. We've done pretty well getting them out every Monday. I can't guarantee a specific time when they'll come out. Anyhow, until next time though, I'm Tom Vassell. I hope you've enjoyed watching the Board Game Breakfast at the Dice Tower.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff, in stock, at coolstuffinc.com.